What are the statistics around how many degree, diploma, as well as certificate holders in the teaching service have been successfully recruited from the over 30,000 list that was posted?
Thank you. Let me start by saying we have an intersection of qualifications now. Diplomas are not a preserve of secondary education now, because we have primary school teachers who are degree holders. We have ECE teachers who are degree holders. So rather, I'll give you the statistics as they stand for the different levels. And the statistics we have now, of course, as you mentioned in your introduction, we are noticing a few duplications, and those will be dealt with by the end of today, because we, from each district, each of the 116 districts, we have a reserve list. So it's very easy if there's a duplication to remove one person and get from the reserve list and replace that person. So that shouldn't cause an uproar in the country, because the reserve list is there from the districts. So in terms of statistics, as you do remember, the minister announced that we received 877 applications, from which we drew 30,496. Now, the distribution of these, according to levels, is that ECE, which is a new inclusion to the education system, if you do remember, ECE was under the Ministry of Local Government. And in the late 1990s, it was seen fit that it be taken from the Ministry of Local Government and appended to education because of the progression way in which education is provided. You need to have a foundation at ECE for you to go into grade 1. A study was conducted then which showed that ECE is really the foundation. The children who had gone through ECE better adopted in grade 1. They learned to learn faster. They need to read faster. They were also, learning prepared at that time. So ECE was put there. So it's relatively a new sector in the education system or in the education structure. And therefore, not every school has an ECE appendage. There are some schools that do have and others do not have. So we gave 2,066 ECE teachers to that sector. Primary level was given 25,736. But I must hasten to say, this number is not only primary school teachers. There are also lower or junior secondary teachers within this number. So I would say most of these who were engaged at this level were diploma holders, some of who trained to teach at lower secondary school level or junior secondary school level, and some of them who trained purely to teach at the primary school level. Then we have 2,694 who are degree holders who were trained to teach at senior secondary school level. So this is the distribution in terms of statistics at each level. And as the minister indicated, this year the recruitment was unprecedented, because for the first time we have employed more women than men. Again, we go back to the demographic. Zambia's population is higher in terms of women distribution than it is for men. So it goes without saying that equity means that you take from the larger pool more than you take from the smaller pool. So we have 59% female and 41% male.
When we talk about, still on some of these statistics, what has also come out from this is the number of the differently abled, which people have also been expecting with the allocation for that, so that we have that sort of balance when we talk about the marginalized in our societies. How are we faring as far as the differently abled are concerned in this recruitment exercise?
When we advertised for these positions, we indicated that 10% of the overall recruitment will go towards people with disabilities, people living with disabilities. And 10% of 30,000 is supposed to be 3,000. And at the time, we engaged the union that looks after teachers living with disabilities. And they were quick to mention that they would not be able to use up all the space, the 3,000, because they didn't have enough teachers. Because if you remember, the year before, when government recruited 1,200, they were again given 10%. And even the year before, 2020, they were given 10%. So most of their teachers had already been mocked up. So when they engaged us, they said, because you have given us these slots of 3,000, is it possible that if we don't use up the slots, you also give to teachers who teach children with disabilities? And that was the agreement. So everywhere where teachers with disability applied, they were taken. There could be others who may have applied where there were no vacancies for teachers with disability. Because if you go back to the advert that we made, it was specific. Every district indicated the schools and where the teachers were needed. The teachers with disabilities were also indicated there, that they would go to specific schools. So there could be some who applied to schools where vacancies were not announced. And they may not have been picked because of that. But what I told the chairperson of this organization is that bring them, because we may have replacements now. Like I say, there are a few duplications that we also have noticed already. So if they have these names, let them bring them so that we use them as the replacement. But what I know is what they told us was that they didn't have enough numbers to make the 3,000. So they requested us to employ these teachers who are able-bodied, but they have trained to teach children with special education needs. And these we have included.
Okay. Now you spoke about the issue of having the reserve list. What happens to those teachers who were posted but they don't show up at their stations, or you find out that the people who are on the list have actually died? Some of those have died and they don't show up. What criteria are you going to use to ensure that you still employ that number? You don't have that shortfall. How are you doing it?
Right. When I say the reserve list, these are people who have already been vetted and they are ready to be employed, but we didn't have enough space. Because let me make it clear that our system is automated. Because it's automated, people are already ranked. I laugh when I see in social media people saying, no, the devs were putting their children, the DCs were putting their children. It is not possible. Because the system ranks people as you enter their scores. A person has 6 points in grade 12, it would automatically grant 20 points. And these points were out of 100. So afterwards, it ranked from the highest to the lowest. So what we were doing is picking according to the ranking. So we shall continue picking those that were left, those that did not make the cutoff point because the spaces were not enough. And the cutoff point here I am talking about individual districts. Because if in an individual district, Lusaka, for instance, it had more than 1,900 applications, but they had only 26 slots, which means there were more than 1,700 that were left out, or 1,600 plus that were left out. So we will go to their database and begin to pull out those who qualified but did not make the cut because of the few numbers that were given to the district.